gotten to this point where you've tasted success. Everything is actually working out. So now, how do you sustain this?
I knew I was creating something good when I could watch my content and actually feel encouraged from that content. It's like I'm watching a piece I've created and I'm actually saying, wow, this was me. This is how I thought in 2023. It's an autocatalytic process. You start very uncomfortably and then starts getting comfortable. So the process is fueling you even more. The process itself is a catalyst. I did the first show. I had to do the second. I had to do the third. The fourth one had to be different from all these three. I would say get an umbrella. So for me, I know I'm a creative. That's why I started by saying I'm a creative all in all. Whichever facets of creativity I take on, it's still creativity. But the fact that you can be a dad, you can be a brother, you can be a son, you can be a friend, already tells you you're limitless. The beautiful thing about this story is that at this time, everything was aligning. I had started my poetry, so by this time I was at like 20,000 followers on Instagram, another like 50 on TikTok. Everything was seemingly aligning, and now the question is, how do we...
Today we're joined by a multifaceted guest, Kevin Maina, also known as Mainamind.
Yes, sir.
He's an actor, a comedian, a social media influencer, a digital journalist, and most importantly, a poet. So Kevin has mastered the art of wearing many hats, and in this episode, he'll share how he juggles these roles while building his brand and making his mark in the creative space. So let's get into it. Welcome, Kevin. I don't know if I've done justice to your introduction.
Hey, you've done more than justice, bro. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit about that? I've actually mentioned a bit of you dabbling into comedy,
Yes.
into acting.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about what you do?
Yes, so my name is Kevin Maina. I also known as Mainamind. I am a creative at heart. I wear many hats, like you said. I'm a journalist, I'm an actor, I am a poet. In fact, people call me the TikTok poet. That's where I started rising from. So yeah, at heart, I'm a creative. I try to identify myself as structured freedom. So it's an alignment of all these three things, or more than three facets of my life, but in a structured way. So they give me freedom to just create.
I like your name, Mainamind.
Yes.
Looking it up online, I noticed that there is another Mainamind.
Yes.
Japanese.
Is that Korean or Japanese?
Yes,
I think
yes.
It's like one of those K-pop
From Asian.
artists, yes.
Yeah, so how did the name come about? Because I understand, yes, you're called Maina.
Yes.
So how did you come up with Mainamind?
So before I started creating, in fact, my name previously, there's a time I struggled with getting a name that would identify my brand, because Kevin Maina is such a common name. Like if you search Kevin Maina everywhere, you are likely to find a Kevin Maina in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Because as 99 babies, I think our parents are just obsessed with Kevin. And it so turned out that many people are called Maina. My family is, So before I started going serious into creating, I started reading books, right? Like I was reading a lot of books. And then I realized I was getting so much knowledge at that time compared to my peers that I felt guilty not sharing that knowledge. And the interesting thing is that I was reading so much of the Western books, the self-help books, but I could contextualize them into what I was going through at a particular time here at home. So I started curating these short videos and podcasts based on the reading, contextualizing it to what I'm going through. So I started feeling guilty not sharing it. So I was like, let me give these people a piece of my mind. So Mainamind. So everything I was creating, it was also a way to sort of say, the opinions I'm sharing here are my own. Okay. So I am not an expert on anything. It's literally what's in my mind. So you take it as is, apply it or not, but it's just information that I'm sharing. And I feel guilty not sharing it. So hence, Mainamind. And it stuck.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about reading self-help
Yes.
books. So why is that?
I think so I started reading them when I was around campus, when I joined campus. I had this phase where I was just, I don't know, I think I was looking for like an identity. There's a lot happening, so I didn't know what I wanted to go do in campus. I was trying to get out of this bubble that I'd put myself in, because I was just discovering acting and music, and they were so pulling on to me. Initially, I was to go do BCom, but I wasn't feeling it. So I took like some time before I really decided what I wanted to do. And so there was this thing I was going to, it was a depressive state, not depression, but depressive. So I found myself just looking for books that related to what I was trying to figure out within myself. So the self-help, like the first book I ever read was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which is by a great writer called Robin Sharma. And it was literally about finding yourself. It was identity seeking. So this guy who was a lawyer, successful, had everything. And then one time he collapsed in court. And he went to hospital, ICU. And after he left, he sold everything and went to India, to some hills, and found monks and lived there. And suddenly he became this now rich human being. And it teaches you a lot about just looking inside and whatnot. So I started going crazy into those books because it was so speaking to a part of me that I wanted to learn. So through that is when now I got so obsessed, and I was like, man, I have to share this information. I have to tell people about it. I even started writing blogs.
Yes.
For my I started writing blogs, and I was sharing it, and I was writing poetry in regards to what I was going through. So even the poetry was born out of pain, and it was just like a wheel that was happening at the same time while I'm trying to figure out myself. And yeah.
So now, how did you transition from writing these blogs and then discovering TikTok?
TikTok was actually like I was a laggard in terms of TikTok. It took me a while before I joined TikTok. But the videos that I now post, the poetry sort of, I don't know what they're called, but the videos that I post, I started them on Instagram, which was very interesting. Mm-hmm. I had been trying to get to Nation, which is, where I work, for a while.
Yes.
As I started writing the blogs, actually, I used to write on the paper. So the opinion section. I wrote so many articles. I think like 5 made it to the opinion section, because if you've read the newspaper, the opinion section is just full of geniuses with how they write. So I'd mastered the art of writing, and I got some of my articles featured. At the same time, I used to write feedback to editors, just to get noticed by them. Like I would write so much feedback. I'd be like, yeah, I liked your article, but this, and then we can improve this. Can I write this? So it took a while, and then at some point I got an interview here. I was still in campus, mind you. So in my second year, I got an interview. I came, I did it, but I never got a call back. So again, I'd even come here to pitch for podcasts, which Nation was just starting to onboard, but nothing was working. So I remember doing this video about rejection. It's my first piece on my page, in the style that I do, and it was just basically, when you face rejection, it doesn't mean that you're not deserving. It just means that it's not your time. Like, keep knocking on the doors, one of them will open for you. So I remember posting it. It was different from what I'd been posting, because I started creating content before that. I was posting Flaco style, funny content.
I've seen, and we'll talk about it. I've seen it.
Yes. So this was something different. And why was it different? It was the easiest piece of content to create, and it was speaking to what I was going through at that time. Like, I was not trying to make anyone laugh. It was literally something I recorded. I put it on my drive for a while, because it was sort of like a video journal, and then I just put some music and decided, let me post it. Woke up the next day and it was blowing up. By blowing up, it was like 200 likes and like 10 extra comments, and the other one, and I was like, wow, this is definitely it. So yeah.
So now it means that you actually found your groove when you started doing the poetry.
Yes.
Now, when you started out on YouTube, because I've gone through it, I've seen some really interesting things.
Yes.
There's this actually skit that you did about Wanjala, and I was actually wondering, is it? Tell me about that. What was going
through? Man, bro, let me tell you. During this time, I was in a depressive state. I remember taking my phone. One time, I was in my room, and I was just bored. I was just bored. It was the first time I actually took a phone and recorded a video of myself. And I remember taking the selfie camera and pressing record and speaking like this Luya guy.
Yes.
And I posted it. And it was so funny to me. Like, I remember watching it and even realizing, wow, this is how I look. It was like the first time I was looking in a mirror. And I just went on a crazy hole of just creating these pieces to make myself happy, but in turn I was making the people who are following me happy, like my classmates, my family. They were like, wow, you're so funny. It was a side of me that I was discovering. In all these phases I've realized it's like, this is not what's gonna get me here, but this is the foundation of me getting there. It was me learning how to edit. It was me learning how to tell stories. It was me learning how to put pieces and bits, because now I went into this evolution of different characters within the same setting. So I have to imagine what this character will say. I have to write a script for them. I have to edit. I have to put music. I have to know the punchline. But that was only building up to this point of mastery in terms of self-articulation, which was now the poetry. So that was to help me get off that state. So it was a period, high school and campus, I was transitioning. So I didn't know what to do. So I went into that craze, and I remember even I got myself a guitar during that time. It was just discovering myself. And yeah.
So most people, when they start doing content creation, they usually have a motive behind it. They probably want to make money out of it.
Yes.
Probably it usually leads to something.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing about what you're saying, your journey into content creation was more, you did not really have the commercial bit figured out.
No.
You just wanted to create content,
Yes.
make people around you happy, just to entertain people. Do you think that is one of the biggest contributors to what the success that you've had up to now?
Yes, I think so. Because as you remember, all this time I was trying to get a job. So for me, content was a catharsis. It was just a channel for me to express. In fact, I didn't know that people could make money out of content. I mean, I knew the big content creators, but it was not like defined on how to. Even now, we are still discovering how to make money from content. For me, it was, I want to really make people happy. It's like a form of therapy. And those two things, in fact, form of therapy, and I want to make people happy. Mm-hmm. So that's where it emanated. And so that, like you said, there was a different drive. For me, it was, okay, how can I make this better? How can I say this line better? How can I do this better? It was that point of learning. Like I was literally a student, and I was watching my videos every day. Before I post something, I watch it like 10 times. And I laugh, and then I post it. And after I post it, I'll watch again like 20 times. Mm-hmm. It was learning about myself before I could even think about how to commercialize.
You're at this point where you're creating content for the online audience, and then you transition to creating content for broadcast and TV. So how did that happen? How did you end up in film?
My first love is acting, right? Being on the spotlight. It's what I crave and love. This time I did an audition. It was successful. It was like the 40th out of the many auditions I'd done. And it was an indie film. They had no budget. It was so stressful. It never even came out. But it was the most fun I'd had on set. Being a main character. We were shooting in Dandora. It was, when I think about it now, we were being exploited. But it was so much fun to not think about my life or anything going around and give a character life. Like I'm just there and I'm being told, this is a script, act it out as you would. It was the most fun I ever had, and I fell in love with acting immediately. I started going to audition after audition after audition. It was so unsuccessful, audition after audition. Even now, me beginning the poetry has always been natural to me, writing, because of so much pain. But now putting them in video form, in the style that I do, which is very cinematic, was me, after being frustrated in the acting and it's not coming, I was like, let me build my own platform. I'll showcase my acting through my content. So it was me expressing myself, but also making sure that the quality was so good that it was showcasing a skill, acting. And after a while, I get this DM from a producer, and she's like, we're working on this film, actually a TV series, and we want you to read some lines for us because we have been trying to cast for this character and we haven't found anyone. Are you willing to do it? I did that on like a Sunday morning. By Sunday afternoon, I was signing my contract.
So wait, now your breakthrough comes. You've actually done a lot of auditions.
Yes,
but your breakthrough comes from what you've been doing online.
Yes. In fact, by this time, I told myself I'll never go to any open audition. And it's not that I'm against auditioning. In fact, I always tell people, please go for those auditions because they are very, very helpful. But I think at that point, because now I've gone back to auditioning, but also closed auditions because now working with an agent. But then I couldn't. Auditions can be brutal. You're limited. You're in a limited setting. You have so much anxiety. I think even how they're conducted in our country is a bit. It's. You're supposed to create a safe space for this character if you want to get the best out of them. Anyone who goes to an audition is talented. In fact, I believe everyone is talented. The fact that they believe in themselves to come dress up and go into that place, there's something in them. You really need to. It's a whole business that people need to create a safe space for these people to flourish. The one audition that I passed at for the indie film is because literally there was no pressure to do anything. They literally told me, and then the director, if he had money, he would have done a good job. He was like, "Hey, I can see something in you. Could you just do?" And when someone tells you that, you're inspired to do more. You're inspired to go out of your shell. Because in an audition, you don't know what they're looking. Okay, you know what they're looking for, but again,
they let you just do your thing.
And but when you go to some of these auditions, they are very hostile. They're like, "What are you here to do?" They're looking at you as if they have already made the decision. So I told myself I'll never, because it was breaking my self-esteem. And I knew I was talented. That's the thing. I knew for sure I was talented. So I decided, let me just create my platform. So yes, my breakthrough did not come even from the traditional way of auditioning. It came from someone who has been watching this guy. In fact, I remember that DM. She was like, you have this charm, essence that I cannot explain. That every time I watch your videos, you can appeal to multiple audiences. And it's true, because big part of my audience is between 25 and 45. So that's a whole range of audience. And so when I did the reading, I was uncomfortable, but again, she told me, do it from the comfort of your safe space, which was literally in my house. And I did it and I sent it, and they were like, fantastic, we like it.
All right, so now in Kenya, we are wired to be creators from a very early stage. In primary, you have the music festivals, you have the drama festivals. In secondary, the same. So most of the guys who are coming out as actors, I was an actor in high school as well. So when I was coming out, I was thinking maybe I can put whatever I've learned, whatever skills that I know that I have, I can put them into use. And I did those auditions. They were brutal, as you say.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what advice would you give someone who feels that they actually have the talent to do this, and they want to be in a TV show, in a film, and they probably, you said auditions are dream killers. So what would you advise them to do, since we have multiple platforms where they can put themselves out there?
Just like you said, we have multiple platforms where you can put. The first thing, anyone who tells me, I want to start a podcast or anything, the first thing I'll always ask, show me something that you've done. Because like podcasts, you just need an app. And you can start, even voiceover. You can do voice recordings on your phone. Show me something. Show me a portfolio. Similar to acting. Show me something that you have done. Go out of your way. It's not easy because everyone would have been doing it. But go out of your way. Collaborate with people. That's something else that people take for granted. Collaborations are massive. Collaborate. Call someone who is good at capturing your vision. Get a sound guy who is willing to come through for you. Collaborate with these people. Create something that you can just put as a portfolio and share. Keep telling stories in your own way. Because what I've realized also with the world, even when I was auditioning, when I look back at it, I was trying to copy a lot of people. I was trying to act like the people I was looking up to. And we do that because we have not practiced enough to figure out our capabilities, our niche. A lot of people tell me when they see the videos I create, it's like, how are you doing it? And I realized quickly, it's not about what I say, it's how I say it. Because that's what stands out. Anyone can say a line of poetry, a paragraph, a stanza, as I'm learning to be, so it's a stanza. Everyone is learning about that. But how is very unique to the person. So if someone is trying to do the same thing, they're missing it because they're running away from who they are and how to do it as they can. So put these things into practice. By the time someone is telling you, I want you to do this, to read these lines because I've seen this about you, there's a confidence booster because you already know what they're looking for. They're literally writing that character with you in mind. And that's such a boost. So start creating, put yourself out there slowly by slowly as you figure out yourself. You never know.
Yeah, and the resources are out there. You can use your phone.
Yes.
Put it out on TikTok, even WhatsApp. You might get some feedback from your friends and family.
Yes.
And maybe you can grow from there.
Yeah.
Now, for someone who wants to get into film and production, what should they expect? Like the first day that you went in a film set, how is it?
It was unlike anything before. I played this character called Richie on Single Kiasi. He's a toy boy for wamamas. We're talking about 45 and above. That's my niche. So remember, we had been trying to cast for this character for such a long time, or they had been trying to cast it. So
yes.
They had already started production without this character. So I missed out on the table read. I missed out on wardrobe fittings. I missed out on meeting the entire crew.
So what is a table read?
Right. A table read is where the producers call everyone in the crew, and you go through the scripts for like the first 5, or actually every episode if you have time, but normally like the first 5 episodes. So table read is you guys read your lines as you're reading the script to have a feel, like to understand the story direction. So the director will break down how this season is going to look like, the journey of every character, and then you read it out. It's an opportunity to edit lines. It's an opportunity to scrap out some of the scenes, an opportunity to add on scenes. It's an opportunity to improvise. So you'd find in a table read, we are laughing because you're like, can I say this line like this? So that by the time you're going on ground, you have so much context of this character. So sometimes when you're shooting episode 13 on the first day, because the location is an apartment that the apartment scene has so many scenes. The apartment has so many scenes that run from episode 1 to episode 13. But because of budget and, just structure, you realize we have rented out this apartment for a week. So we are shooting every scene in this series that is in that apartment within that week.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you can imagine.
Okay.
Today you're shooting 2 scenes. One is in episode 1, the other one is in episode 13. So you need to understand the character's journey. In episode 1,
You've already done this through
the table read. Because now...
How long does it take? How long does the table read take?
A table read takes like a day.
Oh, wow. A whole day just...
Yeah, you just arrive like at 8, you have breakfast. Like it's a whole thing. It's like a workshop. And a table read is literally a microcosm of what goes on behind. Producers have it worse because this is something they do for months. So by the time they're coming to you for a table, it's like the finished product. But let's hear how it sounds with you saying the lines, because maybe how we envisioned it is different. So now you can imagine, I've missed out on all this. So even I don't understand my character. I've signed the contract on Sunday, I need to be on set on Tuesday. So the first thing I remember was shooting, it was a scene on episode 1. My character, the mom I was dating in that season, she was a kinky kind of character. So the character needs to dress up like a maid. So I remember my first wardrobe set on arrival was like a maid's costume. And I was feeling so uncomfortable.
Wait, a maid's costume like
like
a male maid or a lady maid.
It was a lady maid.
So you're
it was like
in a skirt.
Yes, a very short
in
one.
A dress, sorry.
A very short skirt.
A
very short skirt and like a top. Like it's supposed to look sexy and whatnot. It was so embarrassing. So I remember that's the first thing. I arrive and wardrobe are telling me, we have this for you, please put it on. Now I've missed out on the context of introduction. I don't even understand the story. I'm like, okay, this scene, okay, I read part of it, but this is how the character is supposed to be. So it was very, 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 very uncomfortable. But preparation is everything. I'd been in front of a camera for so long. Immediately direct. In fact, I remember coming downstairs because they were shooting that scene downstairs and the wardrobe was upstairs, and everyone was just laughing. So now, how soon do you start now getting into ads, into endorsements after this? So there are 2 versions of it currently. There's the broadcast ads, and there's also the brand influencing that I do through my page. So the beautiful thing about this story is that at this time, everything was aligning. So I had gotten an opportunity to be a journalist. I had started my poetry. So by this time, I was at like 20,000 followers on Instagram, another like 50 on TikTok. And my acting had taken a leap because I was now playing a supporting lead on Single Kiasi, which is on Showmax. So everything was seemingly aligning. And now the question is, how do we make money out of
Very
this?
important.
Because you asked me something about the previous question, if I'm to advise someone who's coming into this industry, one of the biggest in terms of filming and whatnot, negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Negotiation.
Like, that's another thing that should be taught in terms of financing, in terms of representing yourself, having a representative, having an agent, treating what you're doing as a business. Because a lot of times what we do is, even me, like in season 1, I was doing it for the passion. Or like, we're paying you, oh, that's cool, but I'll be on TV, until you do a couple of episodes and you realize, wow, okay, this thing is not easy. It's really tough for you to get that end product that looks the way it does. So learning what you're worth, and giving your best, because if you're well paid, then you're inspired to do even more. You're incentivized, because at sometimes you have hectic days that you forget about the passion. You just have to put your big boy boots and work hard, So the endorsements and whatnot started coming in as I was building my personal brand. So as much as I was doing the acting and journalism, I never forgot about the foundation, which was my poetry. At some point, I was posting a video every single day. I would come from work, go home at night, I'm just recording videos. A bunch of them, because this, again, was another way of sustaining what you're creating. So I would I'd take like a Saturday, lock myself in my room and just create like 20 videos at the same time. And then during the week, I'm just editing and publishing. So through that, it took a while to even get brand attentions, because again, what I was doing was so unique. Like, the poetry I do is so unique. Brands have a hard time figuring out where do they place themselves. So what started happening as I was growing, I started diversifying that content. But also people seeing me in a different light as Richie on Single Kiasi really helped, because people realized, oh, this guy can be really, really funny. And that's how I started getting into broadcast advertising. So big companies were like, would like you to just play this funny character on our ad and whatnot. And slowly by slowly, even now, it's like surprising me on how much work is coming in, such that now you are able to like choose and sort of say, I want to give this work maximum time, so I'll say no to this one, or this is not.
So for someone who wants to get in also the broadcast advertising,
yes,
and you've mentioned something about negotiations. So do you need a manager to get you these ads and to also negotiate on your behalf, or you just go for auditions?
Yeah. So what I would say, like for these ads that people are placed in, I think I've done like 3 or 4 major ones. You probably need like an agent, so I didn't actually go out looking for an agent. I think an agent just approached me because of the work I'd been doing. They were like, we can represent you for some work. We can look out for works that that are worthy of you and negotiate for you well, and then just have a commission. So I would say know people, go out of your way to know people. Which again, I'm saying this knowing it's not easy, but also realizing how our world is such a village, and by you putting yourself out there, it helps you. So you find some of these brands some of them want to keep you. So you can imagine you're doing a broadcast ad, but you have such a huge presence online. They're like, can we extrapolate that and just use you as well as our digital thing? So you probably need an agent, but you need yourself more.
Okay. So you have a lot of people online right now who have thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of followers. How do they monetize these followers? How do they make money out of these followers? Let's say I have 100,000 followers who love my content. Whenever I post something, I have like 20,000 people watching. So how do I monetize this?
The different ways to do it, and I think I've also been learning from it. It took me a while before I could grasp the concept of brand influencing or digital influencing. So for the longest time, I was like, I'm not an influencer. If I want to know about the products I should use for my hair, I'll go to my barber, not some online influencer.
Yes.
So I struggled, but slowly I realized the idea of brand storytelling, which is a different for me. I'd like to define myself as a brand storyteller,
not an influencer,
not
a brand
an influencer
storyteller.
per se. I want to tell this brand story by integrating it into the content I create. So that means I also have to influence a brand that I really love, not just selling anything. So by the time I'm working with a brand, I'm like, yo, if I'm not familiar with you, give me a full immersion. I need a whole day to just listen about your brand and even why it started and where it started. I need that, unless I've been using it so I know even, some of them I'd pitch to. But the ones who approach are like, I want to know the history. So that's one way, brand influencing, or as I like to call it, brand storytelling. It's one big way that has been there for a while, and it's growing, especially in Kenya. It cannot be ignored. It got to a point I could not ignore it. At some point I was like, I can't work with this brand. But it got to a point where I was like, yeah, the money is good, I might as well. But also, there's direct monetization from your audience. Now, if you have an organic audience, which is the route I took from the beginning. So one of the things I always wanted to do was bring people together, build a community. So I started doing live shows, which is something that people have started doing again so much because they realize some of these audiences want to be in the same room with you. So live shows where I bring people together and I perform. And we started with 100 people, 50 people, grew to 200. Our last one, I think in June, was 800 people. So it's something that has also grown, but that's direct monetizing. So you're telling someone, I'll entertain you, or I'll create this space for you if you just pay like 1,500 or 2,000 bob, depending on the amount of tickets. But also more than that, to extrapolate that, merchandising. So merchandise is something that we did. We started selling. But more than that, also poem requests. So people would request for commissioned poetry or vows. So if I find someone who have a wedding on Saturday. Okay. Yes, I've written so many vows. And you'd be surprised how much people are willing to pay to make the people they love happy. So someone is asking you for a birthday poem, but I realize people know what to say, they just don't know how to say it. And that's why I come in. So we sit down, I listen to the context of your life or your relationship with someone, and I write something beautiful that, will add some light touch. So there's so many ways once you understand what your audience wants. Because some of these things I was understanding, people are like, could you write me a birthday poem? And I was like, No, at first I was writing it for free, but I was getting so many requests on my email. I was like, can we just add a charge? Can we just add a charge? People are like, yes. Please let me pay so that you prioritize my point.
And people are actually willing to pay for these things.
People are willing to pay. Even seeing your audience for the first time live, it's different from having 50,000 followers to seeing 100 people in a room waiting to watch you.
Yes.
And they all believe in the same thing. What you always say.
Okay.
It's such a shock. It's like, wow, these people are
How's your experience the first time?
It was scary because when you have 50,000 followers, saying 100 people sounds like you're talking about 2 people. But seeing 100 people in the room,
yes,
waiting for you to say something.
One camera.
You're used to yourself. You're used to talking to your camera and editing what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here, there are no edits. Here, they're seeing your whole body. Normally, people just see my face. Here, people are listening to me tell stories and say the poetry.
And they're reacting.
And they're reacting in real time. It was one of my best shows in terms of learnings, but in terms of experience, it was one of the toughest things I've ever done. But let me tell you, the second show we did was a blockbuster. It was the most fun I'd had on stage because I understood my audience. I knew my strengths. I'm a good storyteller, which is something that people don't see on TikTok. But I'm funny. So when I'm on stage, I'm having the most fun. I'm telling you stories and I'm telling you poetry. So people are having this cathartic moment that I have on my own in my room where I'm telling myself, I want to write this poetry about this, but why? And then I figure out a storyline and I write the poetry. So I'm telling you that in real time. You're literally seeing me create in real time. But more than that, profitability.
Okay.
So now I started understanding the side of business. Okay, so if I put this amount of money, 50,000, and I sell 100 tickets, I'm getting another extra 50 Gs. If I reinvest this 100,000 that I got, I can put up a bigger show targeting 350 people. If I take 150,000 from that and I target another bigger, So it was literally the first show paid for this previous show that we had. So it has been a moment that has been augmenting and learning and figuring out, okay, if I put these pieces here, this is how I can pay people. These are the rates in the market. These are the people I will work with entirely. Like my MC has only been the same MC since the second show. The same MC. The guy who takes care of my visuals has been the same one since. So even these are people that started with you when you had nothing. But as they're seeing the audiences grow, they're also happy to realize that, whoa, we are growing. And they're learning as well about your audience.
The power of relationships.
Exactly. They're also learning about your vision. They understand, okay, I don't have to micromanage. The first show I was also micromanaging a lot. I got so tired. These days, I have my team, I have my producer. I just take care of content. I come on the day of the show. I arrive on set like at 12. By 2, I'm on stage. But all this time, there are people working behind the scenes to make sure that I look good on stage and I'm not worrying.
All right. So now you've gotten to this point where you've tasted success,
Yes.
and everything is actually working out. So now, how do you sustain this? How do you make it sustainable, and also how do you make spread it out, grow in terms of growth? How do you ensure that there's continuity in what you're doing?
I've always struggled to answer that question, but I recently realized for as long as you're making something real, you'll never have a problem of sustenance. The reason why a lot of things go down, of course, there are many factors. There are many other factors that I'll talk about. But when something starts from the wrong perspective or from the wrong intention, in fact, that's the word, intention.
Intentions, yes.
You will always run out of fumes because you are not sharing the you. You are duplicating someone else's work. You are either trying to achieve a goal. So when even you achieve that goal, there's no motivation to really keep going. And sometimes when you're not achieving that goal, you run out of fumes. When you're creating something that you know is... when I knew I was creating something good when I could watch my content and actually feel encouraged from that content. It's like I'm watching a piece I've created and I'm actually saying, wow, this was me. This is how I thought in 2023. Like I had this wisdom.
There's no cringe.
There's no.
Yes.
It got to a point where I'm watching and I'm like, wow. Of course, when I'm watching alone. When I'm watching with people, then I feel, you guys are listening to me. Because when I'm watching with people, it's like when you're watching a film you've created with people, you're not experiencing it from yourself. You are experiencing the experience.
Okay.
So that's a different one. But when I'm creating something by myself and I'm watching it and I'm just seeing how perfect it is and I'm enjoying what I am seeing because it's perfect to me, that's when I knew I've hit gold. Because I've never had trouble writing poetry. I've never had trouble being funny or acting on screen. So I always call it's an autocatalytic process. You start very uncomfortably and then starts getting comfortable. So the process is fueling you even more. The process itself is a catalyst. I did the first show. I had to do the second. I had to do the third. The fourth one had to be different from all these three because we had been doing the same style of formatting. This one, we had to add storytelling elements. We had to bring theater into it. Like the process is catalyzing itself. So you cannot be bored. You cannot sort of say, man, there's no such. No, it's something that is real. It speaks to everyone. It's relatable. But also it's gotten to a point, like you said, a taste of success where you're realizing there's so many layers. I started with one layer. Now I'm stripping so many, where I'm now being able to even tell brand stories, not just myself. Now I'm able to think of concepts. I'm able to think of ideas and I'm able to put them into practice and shoot them.
There's something that I heard you say in one of the interviews that success does not have to be hard.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes it is easy, and a lot of people actually think that they actually have to really, really work hard.
Yes.
For that success to come. For you, it came from things that you feel are easy.
Yes.
In fact, when you worked harder, you had that there wasn't any reward.
There was no.
So now, what is your learning? Like, what would you advise someone who's trying to get into content production.
I'm glad that you brought that point, because I truly believe that sometimes I think I struggled with the concept of easy. When some of my videos blow up, I'm even like, what are people seeing? This is what? But that's the thing.
Authentic is because it's authentic, right?
And it's also because it's you.
Mm-hmm.
There are things you can do that I cannot do, and that is your superpower. So I think even in the African setting, there's this thing that has been put into us. If you look at, videos of young kids being trained from 3 years old, it's not so that they can work that hard all through their life, but that it's natural to them. They're in the Olympics representing because it's so easy for them. I mean, I'm not discrediting the work that goes behind the scenes in terms of prepping, whatnot, and the pressures, but there's an easy aspect to it compared to someone who's starting now. So I'm a true believer of that success doesn't have to be hard work. It doesn't have to be straining. You don't have to be sacrificing or suffering. Struggle will always be there because you have to have challenges, but you don't have to suffer to experience success. And I think from a very long time we have been taught, if you're not toiling, if you're not breaking sweat, if you're not, then you'd be surprised the things that I do that my peers cannot conceptualize. But for me, I enjoy. I feel like when I'm on set, I'm truly on holiday. I will not lie to you. Sometimes I'm like, you guys are paying me for this. It is so fun when I'm on set.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot fathom. You just feel grateful, like someone is paying you to be silly in front of camera. And for many people, they cannot. You put a camera here, they're shaking. It's not natural for people to do that. But for me, it's so easy. And that's why, again, I reiterate to that. Success doesn't have to be. Look at what you are most passionate about. Look at what fuels you. We're in an age where you don't have to go You don't have to go to war anymore. But you have opportunities to sort of, also our parents worked hard. We're in an age where we have technology. There are a lot of things that have moved on, so you have the capability to sort of go for those passions that you're really passionate about and explore them and see to what extent. Who would have thought that someone would pay money to come see a guy, not even me, Abel Mutua, tell stories? Mm-hmm. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
That I'll pay money. I can find the same
just
content
to hear stories.
But I'll pay money to just go watch this guy sit on a couch and tell me stories. But when you watch it, it's so powerful. I don't know how he does it. And that's his superpower. It is so easy for him to sort of get to need that imagery. But it's after years of learning how to write and putting himself out there. So go for things that are easy. Don't feel guilty when you're making money from some of the things, or even when you can't explain to your folks or people. That's the other thing. Mm-hmm. If you're not an engineer, doctor, and people are asking you, so what do you do? I'm a photographer. Then you feel like you're reduced to some. No. Mm-hmm. If that's your thing, make it so good that people cannot ignore you.
And make sure that it's out there.
And make sure that it's out there. Put it out there. We are also in a gig economy. We can do so many things at the same time. And people always, there's again this pressure of, just focus on that. I would say get an umbrella. So for me, I know I'm a creative. That's why I started by saying I'm a creative all in all. Whichever facets of creativity I take on, it's still creativity. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you can be a dad, can be a brother, you can be a son, you can be a friend, already tells you you're limitless. So the idea of always boxing ourselves, which I've seen from maybe our parents and whatnot, someone stayed at the same place for more than 30 years because they were afraid of going for, no, take the risk.
If you look back at your journey into how you started and where you are right now, what do you think you would have done differently if you'd had to start all over again?
Never thought about that. What would I do differently? I think I would be more bold, or is it bolder? I think I'd be, and I'm only saying that because I have the advantage of retrospect or hindsight, but I would have been more bold because I still always challenge myself to be humble enough to be a student. But sometimes when you know some things, it can be hard. But I think when I was starting out, I I was a student for so long. Student in terms of like
Learning.
Learning, but also
Mm-hmm.
the student that does not believe in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So some things would happen and I would downplay them. So there are things that would generally happen and I would downplay them and not have realized
Mm-hmm.
the universe vibrates to your vibration. If you're downplaying your success, it will genuinely not feel like success. Even what you're getting out of it will feel like, oh, is that it? But if you make your learnings, your opportunities a big deal, they become a big deal because they just grow. But if you have been working so hard to a moment and then you downplay it, it also reduces in size. It no longer weighs the weight that it had. So I think I would have been more bold to even just say, to believe in myself more, like to know that what is happening is real. It's not a thing of chance, but that happened eventually. So even now, and it's in the small things, even how you talk to people, even how you negotiate, even how you put your stamp. Like it's taken me so long to just say that this is what I'm worth. I always thought less of myself. Always, because of perhaps many things that involved, but I always thought less of myself.
Do you think people undersell themselves?
When something is so easy for you, you might what is the word I'm looking for? You might undervalue it.
Thank you very much. I think there's a lot of insights that I've gotten from this talk with you.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I feel that I've learned is that the fact that the industry is multifaceted.
Yes.
There's so many places you can plug in, and for you to monetize, you just don't need to, you need to be creative. See what is out there. For you, you decided you're not only going to monetize only on by only inviting clients to advertise for them, but you also decided to take things into your own hand.
Yes.
Do shows, and also you also do classes, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I also do master classes. We had one early this year in April. Thinking of doing another one. Master classes are so fun, which is something I should do more and more often. But yeah, teaching people how to express themselves. Who knew that someone would pay for that? So yeah. So
I really hope that that perhaps someone who's actually listening to you has been inspired.
Yeah.
And perhaps they'll try and use some of your learnings to not to be in that learning stage, like as you say, for too long.
Yes.
And perhaps use it as a springboard for greater and better things.
Exactly.
So thank you, Maina.
Thank you, Nick.
And it's been fun to talk to you. So see you next.